Good afternoon. Today's session is called hashtag no filter, and it's funny because I almost called it hashtag little bit pissed off. And the reason I almost called it that is that I actually think we should be expecting more from social media platforms about how Australians use social media, the facts, the figures, the insights for us, for the Australian market, as opposed to relying on aggregated global statistics or possibly UK or US statistics, because the more insight we have, the better we will use social media. The opportunity is huge, but I'm just a little bit pissed off that we don't get more local information. So that's what No Filter is all about, and that's what our wider datafication program is about. And that's why we've partnered with UTS, and specifically the Advanced Analytics Institute, some incredibly brainy people, to really dig under the skin of social media in Australia. And we've been doing this for 3 years now. And we call it datafication. And today we're releasing the latest wave of datafication research, and that is about Instagram. But if you go to datafication.com.au, you'll see a newly refreshed website that has lots of information about what we've been up to, uncovering insights and removing the filters and getting some more facts on the table about social media in Australia. Now, it's a session in 3 parts. We're going to start off with a bit of the history of this project and this collaboration with UTS. Then we're going to give you some of the highlights of our new Instagram study. And then we're going to give you some advice, some possibly unasked for advice, about how brands should be using Instagram and getting the most out of this medium. So, what is datafication all about? We set this project up 3 years ago for the reasons I've just explained, and our mission is simple, and our mission is to remove the bullshit from social media, because it's getting better, but there is still an enormous shroud of mystery put over the world of social media, and there's a lot of homespun experts who are trying very hard to turn this into a thing that is more complex than it needs to be. So we really want to lift the veil and take some of the bullshit out of social media so that we create useful learnings for Australian marketers about how Australians use social media. And we started this mission back in 2011. And in fact, actually, at that stage, Instagram was only 1 year old because it was founded in 2010. And our first objective was to look at Twitter and really dig into Twitter and understand how Australians are using Twitter, how they are different to the rest of the world, and how they're the same as the rest of the world in certain facets. And as part of that, we created the first Twitter map of the Sydney Basin area, so that we started to look at the geocoded elements of Twitter and started to create a map, a topographical map that shows mountains where usage of Twitter is high and valleys where it's low. And that was very useful because it started to give us a real sense of the suburbs and the postcodes who were really using this medium. But what we were able to do through this analysis, and as you can see, we analyzed about 500,000 tweets, we were able to compare time of day and day of week usage of Twitter versus other capital cities around the world. So we partnered with University College London and tapped into some research that allowed us for the first time to compare how we use Twitter versus other capital cities. And it was quite interesting, and I think I picked out this insight because it does show that we are a bit different in Australia. So in France, the French tend to tweet the most late at night. In Britain, they tend to do it while watching television programs early in the evening. The Germans do it, true to stereotype, early in the morning before going to work. In Australia, we do it on the boss's clock, 9 to 10 a.m., particularly on a Monday or Tuesday. There's a real peak in activity around there. And we thought that was really interesting because marketers get that if you understand the context in which a medium is used, you're in a far better position to actually deliver relevant content, relevant messaging, and get that engagement level. And sometimes we forget about the context in which social media is used. So that was our first wave of research. Then in 2012, last year, we decided to dig deeper into this phenomenon, which is, have you ever noticed how people's personalities transform when they're on social media? So when you meet them in the real world, they're this person, and then you meet them in social media, and they're this person. Quite different, and it's quite Pollyanna-esque when they're in social media. So we thought, wouldn't it be really interesting to dig into that story, try and understand the psychology of that, and build the first user segmentation of Twitter? Because if you understand the motivations of this slightly fake personality that inhabits social media, you'll be in a much better position to build followers and actually engage people, particularly brands engaging in social media. And so that's what we did. Now, we did this through some very fancy work with neurolinguistics. And neurolinguistics basically say that the words and the syntax and the vocabulary you choose for your posts on Twitter are reflective of your mind and mood, and indeed of the archetype that you inhabit, the persona that you inhabit when you're on social media. So let's start with mind and mood. And if you go to datafication.com.au, click on the tab for last year's survey, you'll see more detail on this. But I just thought I'd give you a couple of highlights. Adelaide, based on this, is the most affectionate city. Melbourne is the most social city. Canberra is the most anxious and sad city. Possibly there is a correlation there with the large number of politicians there. I think probably the anxiety levels are high, 100 days out from an election. But Sydney swears the most, followed actually by Brisbane. But we have a list of oaths and swear words for this analysis, half of which I've got to say I'd never heard before. So, but believe me, I know a lot more swear words as a result of last year's analysis. So we had that as a bit of fun. And then what we did was we said, okay, well, let's look at these archetypes. And so on the website, you'll see lots of infographics. I'm not going to cover this off in detail because I want to get onto the Instagram stuff. But you will see that 3 archetypes in particular dominate use of Twitter in Australia. And these are Jungian archetypes. These are the archetypes that we all regularly see in brand planning activities so that everyone can get their hand around them. And I'm just going to give you the top 3 that account for an extraordinary number of the personas that we inhabit when on social media. And if you understand these and the psychology of these, you'll be in a better position to do a good job for your brand in social. So these are the 3 dominant archetypes, and we've taken the liberty of matching a celebrity to each of those, just to sort of make it come alive. Number 1 Jungian archetype is the lover. These people are sincere brand lovers, and Delta, I'm told, is an example. She came up strongly in this analysis as a typical person like this. They're actually really sincere people. They've got strong values, and when they fall in love with a brand, you are just going to build such a great advocate. But you have got to do it well, and you've got to have strong values of a brand. Number 2, epitomized by Lisa Curry-Kenny, although I believe she's called something different, possibly Lisa Curry at the moment. She is the caregiver archetype, and this is very present in Australia on social media, and this person likes to act as a mother figure to friends and followers. This is the kind of person that's sending out a product review. Here's a new product, this is what you should and shouldn't buy. This is the person that's sharing an article about chemical additives in food. Somebody who really like to look after their followers. And if you can supply them with content and engage them in this way, you will get a lot of benefit for your brand. And Joe Hildebrand, Joe is the 3rd archetype, the jester archetype. And I think probably you will enjoy a lot of what Joe says on Twitter. He's a pretty funny guy. And he likes to mock, and he likes to make others laugh. And I think probably all of us in this room know someone who is very like that and has that sort of jester attitude to life. So that was our project in 2012. And just to show you that this really has value, one of the programs that we've run today, and our clients are actually in the room, is the Human Brochure. Capital Tourism is one of our clients, and we applied some of this thinking to our Human Brochure project, where we selected from 31,000 social media influentials, 500 humans, 500 social media influentials falling into these archetypes, who were brought to Canberra for the weekend and were told, right, we're not going to pay you, we're not going to edit you. All we ask is you go out and enjoy the very best Canberra has to offer and tell the story to your following and share with it. And I'm pleased to say that this program delivered 81 million earned media impressions and 92% positive sentiment. And it really helps that Canberra actually is an amazing weekend break destination, so the perception-reality gap and breaking that down works really well. So they are learnings that are being used in the real world. So that's a bit of the project we've been on, and I've got to thank UTS because they have been an absolute delight to work with. And that took us to this year and datafication. We decided to get off Twitter. We got fed up with Twitter, and we thought, let's do something new. And we went on to Datafication 2013, which is all about Instagram. Now, why did we choose Instagram? Instagram, I reckon, is pretty important for these reasons. First of all, it is clearly the fastest growing social platform in Australia. And if you look at the data, and I've got to say the top 10 social media platforms in Australia, getting reliable data on that and who is growing fast is a feat in itself. But all the data points to a growth of about 330% year on year, leading to around, we think, about 1 million users in Australia. So it is a significant platform. But if you benchmark the growth of Instagram versus, for example, the growth of Facebook and Twitter, there's actually a really big difference in terms of the year 3 growth. Instagram are way ahead of where Facebook were and where Twitter was at year 3. Now, it's funny because sometimes those rising fast stars fall and crash and burn, and this is a platform that arguably is easy to copy, but so far they are growing at an exponential rate. And of course, as you all know, Facebook have dug deep for this platform. They've paid allegedly around $1 billion for this. And considering I think they only had about 13 employees, that's a pretty good bonus payday for everyone in the company. And part of the reason they paid a lot of money for it is that it is basically an image-based social media platform. And images, as opposed to video or text, are increasingly the most shared currency in social media and on the internet. Images, fixed images, are a very potent and dominating form of content. And the other reason that they bought it was also because it's a mobile platform. It exists on your mobile phone, and mobility, of course, is of great interest to us all. Currently, the stated objective of Facebook is that they're going to run no advertising until this platform has reached its natural peak. And when that is anyone's guess. But at the moment, it is a sort of really quite pleasantly advertising-free environment, which is probably sacrilege to say at the Mumbrella conference. But the opportunity for a brand in content terms, rather than just lazy bought advertising terms, is that we actually still have a relatively positive image-enhancing environment for brands with Instagram. It's actually not as negative as some of the other social media platforms. There appear to be a few less haters. Now that could be the fact that it's newer, and so the haters haven't really got into it yet, and that may come in time. But certainly it is a much more positive environment for a lot of brands.